Dear Professor Sommer, Professor Breeze, Lord Mayor Lösel, dear members of parliaments, liebe Teilnehmer des 23. Internationalen Limes-Kongresses here in the Theatre of Ingolstadt.
The Limes Congress takes place every 3 years in one of the countries at the edge of the Roman Empire.
What is a limes? It was the formal boundary between Rome and Barbaricum, extending all the way from Scotland, right the way to the far side of Europe, down the Near East and all the way back again along Africa to the Atlantic coast. A large chunk of it is now the UNESCO World Heritage Site.
In 2015, the Congress was hosted in Bavaria, and we went along with our bookstall.
Plans derived from geophysics, from aerial photography, from the excavations, it is now very likely that this place is the Civitas Aureliae G, or the capital of the Civitas.
We had our bookstall delivered by pallet to Ingolstadt University. Chris had to set up on his own, as I was unavoidably delayed at home.
First day was just mad. I was on my own. Couldn't even go to the loo for 5.5 hours. The amount of interest was just incredible.
Well, I missed the rush, but there was still plenty of book selling for me to do when I got there. But the highlight of the trip, obviously, for both of us, was the opportunity to travel around with a bunch of archaeological experts, looking at the remains and the museums and the sites of interest. This site at Eining was excavated and speculatively reconstructed several times about a century ago, so we can't tell any more what it was like originally. What they've done is to set up a kind of outdoor museum where you can wander around, read the notice boards and get an idea about it. It wasn't all archaeology. We managed to see some interesting wildlife on the way to the Weltenburg Monastery, where we had our lunch, and some very over-the-top Baroque architecture. These guys call themselves the Mules of Marius. They're demonstrating all the things that a Roman soldier had to carry. Every legion had a baggage train of pack mules, but Marius decreed that each soldier should carry as much as possible, including all his own armour, weapons, and 15 days' rations. They were nicknamed Marius's mules. As well as demonstrations, the Mules of Marius create dioramas for exhibition. And just to coincide with the Limes Congress, they had set up an exhibition in a museum in Regensburg. The quality of these tiny figures is remarkable. They were modelled by a dental technician and cast in tin, and then had their posture adjusted so they all look different. There are literally thousands of soldiers, as well as all the animals, tents and equipment. This information point shows the topography of the area where two boundaries meet, the east-west line of the Limes and the north-south boundary between Germania Superior and Rhaetia. The Rhaetians were using stone wall for their section of the Limes, whereas the Upper Germans used ditch and palisade. The meeting point of these two systems is represented at the beginning of the trail, rather than where it actually would have been, much to the dismay of the hardcore archaeologists. As we proceeded up the trail, there were also mutterings about the plonking of incongruous reproductions of Roman stonework along the sides of the path. It's all designed to keep school parties interested when visiting a site that hasn't actually got much genuine Roman stuff to look at.
100 years ago, on the feet of this slope, and the question is, where are the other parts? Where is the inscription of this altar?
So the frontier
between provinces.
Okay. Yeah, because so they don't not using the river as the frontier.
No.
And why?
Some questions have no answers. The fort shown on the map is buried under this hill to prevent damage, so there's nothing to see but the outline and the relief model on a plinth in the middle. At Ferring, we walked around the edge of a plateau where an auxiliary fort used to be. There's nothing left of it, though, so somebody spent 300,000 euros of European heritage money to construct this steel and canvas representation of the East Gate. But the prize for the most extravagant modern monument must surely go to this wonky greenhouse. It contains a floating representation of a triumphal arch which may or may not have existed here at one time. It is rumoured to have cost 1.7 million euros to build. The most fun an archaeologist can have is actually walking through a ploughed field, looking for small finds. The reconstructed watchtowers are interesting. Nobody knows in detail how they were constructed or used, so people have tried out different styles, and you can climb up inside and imagine for yourself.
That's what one believes, but I mean, how do you make smoke?
With brazier and you put water on it or wet leaves.
Sure, you always have wet
I
leaves
was
here.
never a Boy Scout, but
Yes, I mean, yes, you do that if you say, well, we play now signaling, but if you do that 365 days a year, but you have constantly wet leaves here, would they just pee on it every day that they have some wetness on moisture on it? Sorry to be rude, yeah, but I mean, I just cannot see it working practically.
Here's a very sophisticated watchtower reconstruction. In the remains of a section of the Rhaetian wall, small pieces of white plaster with red lines painted on it had been found. So they painted this watchtower white with red lines on it to give the same effect. If you look out over the countryside, maybe you can imagine what it used to look like in Roman times. Or just look through the binoculars and they'll show you. What a good idea. Where the limes are still visible in the landscape, they consist of ditches and ridges like this one. But we were lucky to be given a tour of an actual dig in progress, revealing a rather shoddy stone wall that looked as though it had crumbled away on the downhill side, and a little section of what looks like wattle fencing.
Also to make
They take their renewable resources seriously here. The coach trips are the best part of these conferences. You get to see such a lot of things and participate in interesting discussions. In fact, nobody wants to break up the party.
They say that breaking up is hard to do. Now I know that it's true. But don't say that this is the end. Instead of breaking up, I wish that we were making up again. I beg you to say goodbye. Letting you down and never try.